So here it is in Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 12, an interesting twist here in the wording and language as wisdom begins speaking in first person. Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 12, it says this: I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and I find knowledge and discretion. So here it is as wisdom is speaking in first person, referring to himself as I, wisdom. I am wisdom, and I dwell with prudence. And so as we begin to look at this and recognize this, again, who is this speaking? This is God speaking. Again, remember Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 4, to you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of men. Who is that? That is God. And who is God speaking to? That is us. We are the sons of men. Men and women, we are the sons of men that are dwelling upon this earth. So as God is speaking here, he's referring to himself as wisdom in the first person. He says, I, wisdom. Now again, recognize this. We've looked at this in detail already, but just let me remind you of it, that God is all wise. God is all knowing. There is nothing that God does not know, and we are simply the naive ones that need that understanding, that need that wisdom from God. But how do we know whether or not we're walking in wisdom? How do we know whether or not we're walking with God? Because understand something, if God dwells with prudence, we'll understand whether or not, if we're walking in prudence, whether or not we're walking with God. And so God says right here, I, wisdom, dwell with prudence. And so if we're walking in prudence, we know that we're walking with God, because then we're walking in wisdom. Well, what does that word prudence mean? What in the world does that even mean? It means to have good sense, right? And so, I could hear the voice of certain people throughout my life that will say something like this: that boy just ain't got a lick of sense, right? And maybe you know of some folks like that. That boy just he don't have a lick of sense. And when you understand that you don't have that sense, you're not walking with God. But those who walk with God are walking in wisdom, and as they're walking in wisdom, they're walking in good sense. I see people, and I think of people, I think of myself in times of my own personal life. And you ask yourself, what in the world did they do that for? What are they doing that for? Why are they acting like that? They're acting as though they don't have any good sense. And I look at myself and I examine my own life and recognize, I've walked in that same manner, where I'm walking as though I don't have good sense. And so that's why the Bible tells us to be on the alert. That's why the Bible tells us to be of a sober spirit. And so, a drunkard, they don't have any sense. You look at a drunkard and you see the foolish things that they're doing. You see the foolish ways that they're acting, and maybe when they sober up a little bit and some sense gets into their mind again, maybe they're embarrassed about their actions, they're embarrassed about the things that they've said, and they're embarrassed about the things that they've done, because they haven't been walking in a sober mind. They haven't been walking in good sense. Let's think about what we do. Are we doing what we're doing just because that's what the rest of the world is doing? Well, that doesn't make good sense. We're doing what we're doing. Maybe a celebrity says, hey, you need to do this. Does that make good sense, though? Or maybe the news says, hey, you need to do this. Maybe all of society is saying, hey, this is the right way. But does it make sense? Is it sensible? And as you look in the Word of God, and as you know the Word of God, and you're walking with God, is this what God would have me to do? Because what God would have you to do is what is sensible. It doesn't matter if every single other man, woman, and child on the face of this earth said that this is the right way. If it's not what God has said that you need to be doing, then you're not walking in good sense. You're not walking in prudence. You're not walking with God. Because I, wisdom, who is God, dwell with prudence.